Hello everyone. I know that when you heard the word regulation, many of you imagine gray folders, boring legal articles, and a need for lots of caffeine. However, the topic I will discuss today is not just an issue to be left on the dusty shelves of the legal department. Today we will talk about the rules that will determine whether our business will exist in 2030. My PhD studies and field experience have taught me this. Food engineering is not just about measuring pH or conducting microbiological analysis. It's also about managing where money and resources flow. Regulatory compliance and waste management in food system is no longer a social responsibility project, but a matter of survival. The EU Green Deal is like a giant wave coming toward us. We will either learn to surf or swallow water. In this presentation, we will discuss how the transition from the comfortable but destructive take-make dispose circle of the linear economy to the efficient world of the circular bioeconomy. We will examine both the winds coming from Brussels and the rules set by Ankara with zero waste regulation in technical detail. Remember, compliance is not an option. It's the legal key to sustainability. If you are ready, let's open the lid of the waste bins and look inside at the opportunity. This course is designed to build not only awareness but strategic competence in navigating the legal and financial architecture of modern food systems. We will connect circular bioeconomy theory with blending EU and national regulations, translating policy language into operational engineering decisions. By the end, you will not just understand sustainability compliance, you will be able to manage it as a competitive advantage. In this model, our objective is to move from conceptual understanding to measurable implementation. You will learn to interpret regulatory text technically, calculate waste-related risks, and evaluate financial instruments that support green transitions. The goal is to think like both an engineer and a compliance strategist at the same time. What we call the linear economy is essentially a systematic inefficiency built into our production logic. Regulations are no longer treating waste as an unfortunate byproduct, but as evidence of a structural design flaw that must be corrected. Circularity, therefore, is not an environmental slogan. It's a regulatory and engineering response to restore balance in the resource system. Let's dive into some theory, but don't worry if it won't be as headache-inducing as the laws of thermodynamics. Our traditional food production model is unfortunately built on a design flaw. We call this the linear economy. We take the resource, process it, and eventually create a mountain of waste. However, the first law of thermodynamics states matter is not created or destroyed. It only changes form. That shape-shifting matter, namely waste, is no longer a problem for us, but a bioresource. UN Sustainable Development Goal 12.3 mandate us to halve food waste by 2030. Is this just an ethical stance? No. EU and national laws now make this theory mandatory. In the circular bioeconomy model, we will food waste not as trash but as a raw material whose right place has not been found yet. Here we must mention the N9 framework. As engineers, we usually focus on the recycle parts, but the legislator tells us, no, first refuse and reduce. In other words, not generating waste is more valuable than recycling it. Boasting about recycling 5% waste in a production line is 1990s engineering. Modern engineering is reducing that waste to 1%. The pyramid you see on the screen is as important as Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and last for our factor is environmental engineering. This is the legal hierarchy imposed on us by the EU Waste Framework Directive. At the very top is prevention. The best waste is the waste that never happens. If waste is generated, the law tells us don't throw this away immediately. The second step is reuse. Donate it if it's fit for human consumption. If humans can't eat it, make animal feed. It's recycling. If that doesn't work, produce energy. It's recovery. And the very bottom lies that word we dislike, disposal. That is burying it in landfills, collects. For a food business, burying waste is equivalent to burying money. Moreover, according to EU legislation, this is a certification of system failure and is subject to strict restrictions. As an engineer, I must say if the disposal item constitutes the largest percentage in your waste management plan, there is a serious leak in your mass balance. Disposal is not a management style. It's a surrender. Our goal is to stay at the top of this pyramid. The European Union has completely changed the rules of the game with the Green Deal. The farm-to-work strategy, while sounding like a catchy restaurant's name, is actually a very strict regulation package. The 2030 targets are very clear. Pesticide use will decrease by 50%, nutrient loss will drop by 50%. Why does this concern us? Because I think because the EU is the world's largest food importer and exporter. If we want to sell goods to the EU market, we have to comply with their rules. Specifically to EUDR, EUD forestation regulation is critical. For products like cacao, soy, coffee, and beef, you need to prove that the raw material you source did not cause deforestation, and you must do this not verbally but with geolocation data. You need to be able to digitally trace which field and which parcel you bought the product from. For a Turkish food exporter, this means saying my product is safe. It's not enough. You must be able to say my product has zero cost to the planet. Otherwise, customs gates will close in your face. Here is the crucial point with the regulation known as Directive 2025-1892, which entered into force in October 2025. The era of voluntarism is over and the era of obligation has begun. For the first time in its history, the EU has set legally binding targets for member states. 10% mandatory waste reduction in manufacturing and 30% in retail and consumption. These rates will be calculated based on your average between 2021 and 2023. Let's look at this with an engineer's eyes. Do you keep a mass balance account in your facility? Do you know the difference between incoming raw material and outgoing product waste down to the gram? If you don't, it's impossible to meet these targets because you cannot manage what you cannot measure, and you get fined for what you cannot manage. This directive mandates business to keep their waste inventories as precise as their financial statements. Waste reports are now as important as financial reports. In this slide, we will discuss the polluter pays principle, EPR, extended producer responsibility, is my personal favorite because it forces engineers to design more intelligently. EPR says when the packaging of the product you produce becomes trash, the cost of collecting and recycling it's your problem. In other words, you cannot say goodbye to the product once it leaves the factory gates. You also pay for its funeral expenses. This is where eco-modulation comes into play. It's a fancy terms, but the essence is this. If your packaging is recyclable, biodegradable or reusable, the contributions fee you pay to the state decrease. If you design a complex, hard to separate packaging that make one ask, how am I going to recycle this? You pay punitive hike fees. So friends, packaging design is no longer just marketing's job of making the product look good on the shelf. It is an engineering cost optimization problem. Let's put emotions aside and talk money. Sustainability may seem like an expensive transition, but financing models are shaping up accordingly. First, the plastic tax. The EU charges 0.80 euros for every kilogram of non-recycled plastic packaging waste. This is the cost that creates a domino effect in the supply chain. As a business, you will either swallow this cost or innovate. Second, tax incentives. There are great tools like accelerated depreciation. If you invest in green technology, for example, a waste recovery unit, you can deduct this investment from tax much faster. Third, and sweetest, grant program to EU Life program or Horizon Europe. Into 2024 call alone, 358 million euro was distributed to circular economy project. Are you going to produce animal feed from food waste? Obtain biogas? The money is there as long as you have a project. Let's return from Brussels to Ankara. The situation is not different in Turkey. The environmental law and zero waste regulation are our constitution. Especially the zero waste regulation is mandatory for businesses of a certain scale, malls and chain markets. There are basic silver, gold and platinum certificate levels. These certificates are not just ornaments to hang on the wall. They are proof that you separate your waste at the sources and that your temporary storage area comply with standards. There is also a mobile waste tracking system. It's a big brother that digitally tracks every step of your hazardous waste from the moment it leaves the factory until it goes to a licensed disposal facility. Failing to enter data or making a false declaration is now instantly detected by the system. So, the era of "let me bury the waste in the backyard" is long gone. Now we come to the painful part, to 2025 tariff of environmental law, now 2872. The figures are no joke, they are business closing kinds. Look at the screen. The penalty for not establishing a waste treatment or disposal facility even though it's mandatory is 1,671,844 Turkish lira. Not only that, the penalty for making a false declaration, that is telling the state I have no waste when you do, is 167,045 Turkish lira. The most terrifying figure is for hazardous waste import, 55,731,888 Turkish lira. This figure can wipe out a company's annual profit overnight. Therefore, regulatory compliance is risk management for the finance department and a matter of honor for us technical staff. Obeying the law is always cheaper than paying the fine. After darkening your mood with penalties, let me give you some good news. The state says if you undergo green transformation, I will support you. There are two main actors here. COSGAP and the Ministry of Agriculture. The COSGAP Green Industry Support Program is a lifeline for small and medium-sized enterprise. If you carry out an energy efficiency or waste recovery project, you can receive support up to 2 million Turkish liras. However, a large part of this is a grant. Rural development investments give a 50% grant for agricultural product processing facility. Are you going to put solar panels on your roof, establish a biogas plant? The state pays half the bill. Our strategy should be finance the investments we are already obliged to make to avoid penalties with state incentives and get them essentially for free. This is called entrepreneurial engineering. So how do we do this in the field? To answer its green HACCP and digitalization. Traditional HACCP focuses on food safety. It asks, is there bacteria, is there metal? Green HACCP adds another layer to this. How much water does this process use? How much energy does it consume? We add critical environmental control points to critical control points. For example, a pasteurization unit is monitored not only for temperature but also for energy efficiency. We cannot do this without digital tools. Digital certification in exports with the traces NT system, real-time water energy tracking with IoT sensors, and of course, waste to value. We will see food waste not as trash but as an input. Producing bioplastic from cheese, whey, or obtaining biogas from organic waste is not science fiction. It's today's technology. In conclusion, our 5-item prescription for the future food enterprise is on the screen. 1 is measure, 2 is invest, 3 is digitize, and 4 is integrate, and 5 is comply. Remember, friends, sustainability is a legal obligation, but efficiency is its reverse. Thus, obey to laws not only avoid paying fines, but also become a more profitable business. Thank you for listening.